So Blanche wants to hear a funny story in the beginning of the scene, and Stanley says he doesn't know any refined enough for her. And this is Stanley simply refusing to comply with Blanche. He's just digging in his heels. He's being difficult. There's a sense that he's kind of mocking Blanche's upper class behavior, her upper class background, especially since he is learning more and more about the things she's done and where she's come from. So the fact that he's made this comment about being refined, it's a kind of a subtle dig at her. And this scene, while there is some conflict between the two characters, it's not the knockdown, drag out, yelling and screaming that we've come to expect from Stanley. This is a little bit more of a subtle anger, a subtle resentment towards her. Just some spite towards her. For instance, when she tells her joke, he pays no attention to the story. He's just completely tuning her out. And this act of rudeness shows Stanley's contempt for Blanche as well as the animosity between them. In addition to kind of representing the conflict between these two characters, some critics look at this scene as a bit of a social commentary. That in the past in America, the upper class, the wealthy upper class, and the poor lower classes have always had this very prominent conflict, at times even becoming physical. And Williams might be making a commentary here about how the upper class and the lower classes in America in the 1940s, 1950s were starting to kind of learn to live together. Maybe not in the most pleasant way, but there's hopefully less conflict, less of the resentment between the two classes. Reading too much into it, possibly, but it is something to think about. Williams does continue the theme of male versus female power in this scene. However, he flips it a little bit. Throughout the play, we're used to seeing Stanley as the dominant character, and here in this scene, Stella actually says some things to Stanley that are quite powerful. She says, Mr. Kowalski is too busy making a pig of himself to think of anything else. She also tries to assert some power over Stanley by agreeing with Blanche. That throughout the play, Stella has always sided with Stanley, and here in scene 8, she's siding with Blanche just a little bit. She does this again when she says, your fingers and face are disgustingly greasy. Go wash up and help me clear the table. She's giving him orders, giving him directions. And this momentary reversal of power freaks Stanley out. And I want to show you this clip from the film. This is from the 1951 film. You can see Stanley's reaction.
Stanley, tell us a joke. Tell us a funny little story to make us all laugh. I don't know what's the matter. We're all so solemn. Is it because I've been stood up on my beau? It's the first time in my entire experience with men, and I've had a good deal of all sorts, that I've actually been stood up by anyone. I don't know how to take it. Tell us a funny little story, Stanley. Something to help us out.
I didn't think you liked my stories, Blanche.
I like them when they're amusing, but not indecent.
I don't know any refined enough for your taste.
Well, then, let me tell one.
Yes, you tell one, Blanche. You used to know a lot of good stories.
Now, let me see. I had to run through my repertoire. Oh, yes. I love parrot stories. Do you all like parrot stories? Well, this one's about the old maid and the parrot. This old maid, she had a parrot that cursed a blue streak and knew more vulgar expressions than Mr. Kowalski. The only way to hush the parrot up was to put the cover back. Must be upstairs. Well, the only way to hush the parrot up was to put...
Go on, Blanche.
No, I don't think Mr. Kowalski will be amused.
Mr. Kowalski is too busy making a pig of himself to think of anything else. The face and your fingers are disgustingly greasy. Go wash up and then help me clear the table.
Now, that's how I'm going to clear the table. Don't you ever talk that way to me. Pig, Polak, disgusting, vulgar, greasy. Those kind of words have been on your tongue, and your sister's tongue is too much around here. What do you think you are, a pair of queens? Just remember what Huey Long said, that every man's a king, and I'm the king around here. And don't you forget it. My place is all cleared up now. You want me to clear yours?
So you can see Stanley's reaction in that scene. When Stella tries to assert her dominance, she tries to control Stanley, he reacts violently, and he reacts quite drastically in order to re-establish the power dynamic in this relationship. And this line where he says, every man is a king, and I'm the king of this house, it's a commentary on typical gender roles. That he wants the gender roles to go back to the way they were before Blanche came in, where he was in control, Stella was submissive. And here William's saying that some men feel like they need power over women, although some women strive to be powerful themselves. And so this conflict of who's in charge in the relationship can be a real problem, and in the Kowalski family, it can be a physical problem. Not only does William continue the use of the male and female power theme, but he also continues the theme of loneliness. And part of me feels really bad for Blanche in this scene. It's her birthday, Stanley's acting like a real jerk, and there is this fourth table setting that's left vacant, and it's for Mitch. And, she keeps hoping he's going to come, hoping he's going to show up. We know he's not coming. Stella and Stanley know he's not coming. Somewhere deep down in, Blanche knows as well, but she's still hoping, still longing for that love. And even when she calls and can't get a hold of Mitch, there's a real sense of heartbreak here. When the phone does ring and it's for Stanley, there's that momentary like, oh, maybe it's Mitch, and then again the letdown. And then there's Stanley's present that he gives Blanche, the ticket back to Laurel, and all of this. The empty table setting, the phone call that's not for her, the bus ticket back to Laurel. This all makes Blanche feel even more lonely, even more unwelcome. And Blanche, at the end of the scene, is left alone with her own crazy thoughts. And this really hammers home the point that she is not well. The situation she's living in is incredibly dangerous for her. It's really I think it's kind of heartbreaking. Williams also uses the motif of inside and outside in this particular scene. I don't know if you've noticed, but anytime Blanche leaves the apartment, she is attended by someone. She never leaves the apartment alone. And this kind of adds to her feelings of entrapment, that she is stuck in this apartment, and if she leaves the apartment, she has to be escorted. While Stanley's allowed to go outside, smoke a cigarette, go bowling, and do whatever he wants. So this sense of entrapment and also, again, male freedom is something to really think about in this scene. Williams also continues to use the motif of light. Blanche says, I have the line here, that candles aren't safe. That candles burn out in little boys' and girls' eyes, or wind blows them out. And after that happens, electric light bulbs go on, and you see too plainly. And this is clearly a reflection upon Blanche's life. Her distaste for electric light bulbs, because they're harsher and more penetrating light, reflects her active avoidance of the truth. That Blanche would rather have the world lit by candles, so there's some shades of gray and some darkness, and you can hide a little bit. That the electric light is just too bright. She prefers the candlelight because of magic and romance, this idea that she can kind of create her own little fantasy world. And if you shine a light into her fantasy world, you'll destroy it. And this could also be interpreted as a warning about candles, which is could be a metaphor for the message that fantasy and dreams are dangerous after they're taken away. Hold on. that if you blow a candle out, it's destroyed. Much like Blanche's dreams have been blown out, have been taken away. So again, he's playing with this idea of light and truth and reality, that the harsh light is something that Blanche desperately tries to avoid. This scene is really important, in my opinion, for two reasons. One, it helps to establish some sympathy for Blanche. We haven't really liked her up until this point. We've been on her side here and there, but she is a difficult character. She's an anti-hero. But this scene, where it's her birthday and the guy she's interested in doesn't show up and Stanley's doing his best to be a jerk, it's really disheartening, and it is kind of, you build some sympathy for her. I also think this scene is important because it shows us that Stanley is so antagonistic. He is loving this. He loves it. It's uncomfortable. He loves that she's upset, that she's lonely. And so this scene helps to further establish his villainous behavior.